Alright, we're live here. It's election night in America, I guess. We're gonna give you analysis on poll closings and everything you guys need to know. So we'll start the live stream now. Poll closings are gonna start in just 8 minutes. So I guess we'll get CNN and Fox and all those stuff. Sorry, it was a little late. We have about 8 minutes until first poll closing, so we'll give you some analysis on that right now. I'm just gonna show you guys, just gonna go into, I guess not final prediction, just go possible outcomes here. Here, just gonna fill in the map. So we're also gonna make some projections as well, projecting our own map. My dad will be here sometime. This will be the projection map. There we go. You guys can't see it, obviously, but we'll give you some projections and tell you who is winning, and we'll give you some unbiased opinions. I do believe that Trump does not have a slight edge anymore. I think it's a pure toss-up. For the past few weeks, I've been telling you guys that Trump has a very decent chance at winning, obviously, and he does still. So does Harris. It's basically dead heat right now, and we probably won't know the election outcome until later tomorrow, but we'll see here. We'll see how long we can get into the night. It's going to be a while, so it's going to be a long, long night. And I'm going to show you here. Well, I'm not going to show you, but I'm going to tell you some of the outcomes, some of whatever, some crazy outcomes, and we'll definitely be taking breaks. We'll see here, obviously, but yeah, we are literally just seconds away from poll closing. Let me go. There we go. I'll probably be ending the stream around 1:30. We'll probably have a good major news sources. Major news networks will probably have not called the election yet at 1:30, but we'll probably call it if it's going to be called tonight. We'll see how close it is. Close it is. You know, maybe I can't. Do you think I could? Maybe. Yeah, no. Never mind. Maybe. It was a maybe. We'll be taking a few breaks. We'll see here. We're gonna try and get. It's gonna be kind of iffy because my MacBook, it's gonna be a little weird because of how. But yeah. So right now, I'm gonna take a look. All right. So we have what? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 main swings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 6, 7. Yeah, we have 7 swing states here. It's probably going to start right now at 226 to 219. Not guaranteed, obviously. There could be some surprises, but we'll never know. Yeah. I'm also going to be watching the Sabres game on my phone, so we'll look and see here. Let me put on. We have 4 minutes until our first poll closings and our first projections of 2024. So let's go to 502. We'll start with NBC. We'll see here.
Battlegrounds of all.
Here we go.
At the top of the hour, the first polls close. Our decision desk able to make its first calls of the night.
6 states and 60 delegates up for grabs, including one of the biggest battleground prizes in the South, Georgia.
The polls showing a race down to the wire. The state key to former President Trump's strategy for victory.
We are going to win the state of Georgia. And if Vice President Harris wins it,
The path to the White House runs right through this state.
she opens up another path to the 270 electoral college votes needed.
Actually, we can talk about that right now. So, based on voting projections right now, we could say Georgia Georgia and Arizona are definitely the best swing states for Trump. Here we go.
In Union City, Georgia, for us tonight. Polls just about to close in that battleground. Hi, Blaine. What are you seeing?
Well, Savannah, really, this is the nerve center for Fulton County elections. This is the elections hub. I can give you
We are just around 3 minutes away from the election.
Here, I spoke with a top county official who tells me how this process will unfold through the night. Basically, what happens when the polls close here in Georgia, about 3 minutes from right now, poll managers are going to take the memory cards and they're going to take the paper ballots. They're then going to drive them to one of 7 check-in centers that spread throughout the county, and then all of that information, all of those things are going to come right here. It's going to be an interesting thing. We're going to see each one of those precinct managers walk in, escorted by a law enforcement officer to bring those memory cards and the paper ballots, and that's when the tabulation process will begin. Now, of course, the big question is, how long is it going to take? Well, we know that Georgia law now requires them to start being uploaded, the early voting ballots and the absentee ballots, to be uploaded within an hour of polls closing. So around 8 o'clock, we're going to start to see those results. They'll be shown on a big screen that's not too far away from where I'm standing. And certainly all of this is going to start to come alive once the polls close in about 2 minutes, Savannah.
All right, Blaine. Thank you very much.
Now to our panel. Hallie Jackson is our senior Washington correspondent. Kristen Walker is host and moderator of Meet the Press. Hallie, let me start with you. We're about to get our first
Here we go.
characterization.
Finally.
What do you think?
Listen, Georgia is going to be a critical state here. This is a place that had a very,
you're
very
back, guys.
thin margin back in 2020. So what happens in Georgia is going to matter. A couple of things that I'm watching as I'm digging into those exit polls, which we'll get to after the polls close. Independents, who's doing well there. Non-white voters, Black and Latino voters, especially when you're looking at places like Metro Atlanta. We're always looking at young voters, and we are always looking at the gender gap, of course. We know that that is
That
a
was supposed to be the
dominant.
headline of the night.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll see if it
It's
continues to be. I think a real tell for that is going to be after 8 o'clock when polls close, and we can start to report out more.
Georgia was one of those traditionally red states that Democrats had thought about and dreamed about for many years, and not until 2020 did they finally get it. It was the swingiest state of the 2020 election. Trump won it by 200,000, I think, in 2016, and then Biden barely eked by. So what do you expect tonight?
Well, I think there's been so much focus on African American voters and Black men in particular. I think about former President Barack Obama, who was out on the campaign trail with that very blunt message for Black male voters: don't sit on the sidelines, get out and vote. So we will see if in a place like Georgia, the Atlanta suburbs, that paid off.
Your election alert now.
We are
approach
10 seconds away from making our first
We're about
projections.
to start getting interesting.
Right now, we are there. Here we go. It is time for the 2024 presidential
All right, 7
election.
o'clock in the East, and we will not waste any time. This is the moment where we move from those months of speculation.
We'll take a few minutes for the poll.
results.
That's right. The polls have just closed in 6 states, and NBC News is ready to
Chills.
make our
Oh
first
boy, here we go.
projections
My favorite night of the year.
of the night. Here we go. We'll start with the state of Kentucky. NBC News projects
We're gonna project
a win in
Kentucky
tonight.
will go to Donald
NBC
Trump.
News projects that Vermont will go into Kamala Harris.
Kentucky will go to Donald Trump.
This is where it brings us.
Vermont will go to Harris. 8-3. Very, 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 very early on, obviously.
Well, polls closed in a handful of states, and these are the ones we haven't called yet: Indiana, South Carolina, Virginia, and that all.
We're going to take a little bit more time to call Indiana, and obviously a lot more time for Georgia and Virginia. We're placing it into too early to call category.
Out of Georgia, it is simply too early to call, but Georgia is one of the faster states to count.
So we're gonna place that at poll closed. All these at poll closed.
Some of the states that we're looking at, see, you've got Kentucky up right on that. Why
So
is that?
this is the earliest data we're having so far. We have called Kentucky.
Yeah, and it's already looking like Trump's gonna have an easy win in Kentucky.
How is it looking compared to 2020? Again, a lot of that is still out, but we were able to make the projection as we explained to you. I also want to talk about Indiana because we're getting some vote data here. Still too early to call. Remember, only 14% of that vote is in right now. We also have this great feature on our board where we can show you where the remaining vote is. So obviously, the bigger the bubble is around those counties, that's how many votes are still outstanding.
I think the reason why NBC isn't calling the Indiana right now is because there's a lot of vote left in Indianapolis. So we'll see.
Against Hillary Clinton. This is a state that Republicans are going to be safely in the win column, most likely. One of the places we can start to get data from is Hamilton County, with 60% of the vote in. This is not a great sign for Trump right now, but again, I want to be very clear. It's only 60% of the vote in, and this is what I'm talking about. 52% is what he won in 2020. She's on top right now with about 49-50%.
It really doesn't look like it's going to matter that much, though.
Right now, again, still very early, but this is the first data we're getting tonight, so we're kind of parsing what we can so far. There are big areas like South Bend, Pete Buttigieg, who was the mayor there, obviously, where Notre Dame is as well, and the big city of Indianapolis, Evansville, there's a university down there. A lot of them. If we look at the map of 2020, these are mostly rural counties, red counties where Trump can really run up the vote. But again, in some of these smaller counties, he wants to be 60-70% to make sure he can overcome what he's going to get in Indianapolis. But still very early tonight. Savannah, we're getting a lot of data as it's coming in, hot and heavy throughout the night, but right now, still very, very early.
This is when we get the tea leaves out. This is the tea leaves portion of the night. And, when you have the red state, you know that Indiana's that Trump will prevail most likely. Same thing with Kentucky. But sometimes we can look into those counties and particularly the suburbs, because that is where we're starting to see a trend. Did I read your mind?
Oh, we're mind melding because I'm looking at Hamilton County and I'm going, okay, people at home are probably going, wait a second, Hamilton County, was I supposed to know about that one? Was that one of the big ones? Here's why it's so interesting. It's because of the tea leaves, Savannah, and because of the trend lines as well, right? This is a county where Republican margins have been shrinking over time. Democrats have been.
Doesn't really matter.
They're
all going to project it the same. Oh, they're going to be annoying, but almost every news source is going to be annoying.
And that is what's so interesting about Hamilton. Let's not over-index on it. It's early, so that's why we're interested in it, because it's at least some data that's coming into us. But that's part of the story here.
You can see the importance of some of these places by how many times the candidates have visited. Donald Trump, 8 trips to Georgia, 7 for Kamala Harris. I mean, we cover it every night.
We're going to project that Indiana will go to Donald Trump. They haven't projected it yet, but we can just see here. We're going to do Trump.
Margins do we see there? That's how President Biden wound up eking out a victory. And then
we've already have a projection here. It looks like 14% in, Donald Trump will win that state. 19-3 is
these are themes that will run throughout the night. Kamala Harris has to get the turnout up.
You can just see here, Indianapolis is look here.
For the rural vote that is expected for Donald Trump, and he has
The AP has just show all states. So it is now 19-3, Donald Trump in the lead. Yep. Well, these are easy states to call.
Able to get out some of those voters who don't typically go out and vote. One note about Pennsylvania, one of the biggest states we're going to be watching throughout the course of the night. Joe Biden won it, not just by running up the margin in the Philadelphia county, but in the suburbs of Philadelphia, those collar counties that make all the difference. Hallie and I are both in Pennsylvania.
Bucks County in the House vote.
Yeah, what do the exit polls tell you?
Okay, so let me disengage myself from the chair here, because we can start to get into some of the vote breaks here in Georgia. And here's what's really interesting. We've talked about people who identify as independents. This is a category, right, of voter that Vice President Harris really extended an olive branch to. She wanted to win them over. But look at this.
What channel is CNN on?
Donald Trump winning independents, nearly a double-digit margin over Vice President Harris in the state
That's
of Georgia.
definitely not good for Harris.
These are early numbers.
We have a poll from NBC News, an exit poll from Georgia. Has Trump ahead by 11 points in independent voters. That is not a good sign for Harris there.
Independent voters in Georgia.
Trump is winning with 1% of the popular vote in. It doesn't really matter right now, though, because most of the states that have been called already by me have been Republican. Obviously, Indiana and Kentucky. So
Kamala Harris winning with women, Donald Trump winning with men, and I'll tell you that.
Well, that's clearly obvious.
That is something else we'll be watching here throughout the night. She's got to do really well with women. He wants to do really well with men. And in my conversations with campaign sources just in the last couple of hours,
And we have a projected
Call this
winner
election perhaps
already.
the battle of the sexes election. So we'll see how that plays out. I think we've got a winner to announce. Key projection in the state of Indiana, and no surprise here, Donald Trump will win that state again. Here's the data that's just coming in. See if we can get some numbers. And you now know, because we've taken you inside the decision desk, how is it that we can project this with just 15% of the vote counted? It is because we're confident that the margin is sufficient to make that call. So let's go to the 270 map. We're going to see this a lot, and we start to fill in some of the gray. Indiana.
I don't like
red
this though. I
for
want to
Donald
see
Trump. Let
CNN.
me go right over to
Maybe we'll maybe
Easty Tracy
no, that's
keeps it
Judge
cool
Judy.
no matter how
ABC.
But it's much harder
Yeah, no.
if Pennsylvania falls that way. And you mentioned those early votes. Of course, they're going to be supplemented with.
Oh, this is so nice. He's so excited to have you here.
Now let you and me get something straight.
I feel happy.
Oh, NHL hockey. Might as well watch this. Doesn't matter, right?
Might as well watch that.
Turned at 60 yards. Feel like a shot.
Well, let's keep going up until we reach CNN. Let's see what they have to say right now.
Yeah, this is around here somewhere.
Go
No, I
ahead.
ate her.
Yeah, we're not watching that.
Remember, both can't.
At the African American vote in Georgia, it's making up 30% of the electorate, according to these early.
CNN has Harris up by a lot and black vote
86%.
86%.
So 12%, but I want to note here that 86% number. 4 years ago, Joe Biden had 88%, a tick higher of support of the African American vote, and Trump's 12%. He is a tick higher than he was 4 years ago when that was 11%. But it's roughly the same with the black vote what we saw here. Look at younger voters under the age of 30. Harris is winning them. They make up 18% of the electorate. Harris is winning them 60% to 39%. She is doing better with young voters in Georgia than
Well,
Joe
yeah.
Biden was
Didn't they
doing
just
just
call
4 years ago.
Georgia's
Trump got 43%.
No, that was Indiana and
vote in
Kentucky.
Georgia 4 years ago. He's down to 39% now. So that'll be something to watch. And then non-college white vote. This is obviously Trump's base. 32%. Roughly
Yeah.
a third of the Georgia
He's probably going to win those by a lot.
non-college educated voters. Trump's winning 81% of them. That is a bit better than he was doing.
You telling me where you're going?
So as a share of the overall electorate has come down, Harris is winning 18% of them, a tick under where Biden was 4 years ago. This will be the story of these exit polls in Georgia. Independent voters. They make up 31% of the electorate. That is a slightly larger share than what they made up 4 years ago. Trump is winning them by 11 points in these early exit poll results, 54% to 30%. Jake, 4 years ago, Joe Biden won independent voters in Georgia when he won the state.
You gotta stop
by 9
unplugging
points.
things.
So we've seen a swing of 20 points towards Trump in terms of the margin, from 9-point advantage 4 years ago with independents for Biden to now an 11-point advantage with independents for Trump in Georgia.
Wow. They're Italian. And Dan, that is really significant. We see some incremental changes here and there when it comes to young voters. She's doing slightly better. Non-college whites, he's doing slightly better. But that independent swing is wild.
It's a huge swing, and I just want to underscore what David said. It is a bigger percentage of the vote share. Last time around, it was 28% independents. I made up 28%
What is wrong
of
with
the
you?
Georgia
Stop
vote,
it.
and now
Why won't she sit with me?
30%.
Come up here. Come on.
Yeah,
I'm just going to place you guys right here.
and it is it's a complete flip. Donald Trump is doing so much better with independents than
Lay down.
Harris.
Stop being stupid.
Joe Biden
You're his dog.
ran away.
Lay down.
I need to go
Where she won the state.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why. What the reason is that there would be this dramatic flip of double digits in independence. And you don't often hear in election coverage. It's something of a loss as to how you explain that independents would have won so much more for Trump this time than they did for Biden last time.
Hang on, we're going to go over to Jake for projection.
And we can bring you another CNN projection. CNN projects that Indiana will go to Donald Trump. Indiana with 11 electoral votes will go to Donald Trump. Let's look at the electoral map now to see where the candidates stack up. Remember, 270 needed to win. Donald Trump has 19 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 3 electoral votes. They both still have a lot of electoral votes to get up to 270. Let's do a key race alerts for you now. In Florida, Donald Trump is in the lead with 51.3% of the vote.
Barely.
Harris has 47.
That's interesting to watch. So we have Trump.
I'm sorry, they just went up, but 204,914.
So it looks like Trump's going to win Florida.
That's with more than a third, 35% of the estimated vote in from Florida.
Pretty easily.
With its big fat packet of 30 electoral votes. The Commonwealth of Virginia,
we will not.
more competitive. Donald Trump in the lead right now with 58.7%.
But only a few thousand, and so can't even say anything about that, right?
That's only with a handful of votes in
Right.
as of right now. About 1,500 votes as we stand by for results from the crucial state of Georgia. We are counting down to the end of voting in the battleground state of North Carolina.
Here we go. That's a big one.
Getting started. Stay with us.
Election night in America and the magic wall is brought to you by Aura. Keep your finger on the pulse.
Aura. Yeah, I have Aura, right?
Activity, stress, and
All right, let's see what Fox is saying about this election. BBC US, there is.
Available in.
Where is it?
How much bigger than last time or smaller than
Harris has a slight lead in Georgia right now, though, by 4,000 votes.
A little bit of evidence from
So clearly,
from Indiana that
clear.
we ought to be worried about if the Trump campaign ought to be worried about, and that is the suburban support. Hamilton County went Republican 4 years ago. Trump won 52 to 45. Tonight, with about 2/3 of the vote in, he's losing it to Kamala Harris, 50 to 44, actually 50 to 48. So he's running behind his performance. If that happens in Indiana, in Georgia, with these suburban counties like Forsyth and Cherokee, which was won by Biden, but it has a huge number of the biggest number of
Trump has extended his lead to 52% in Florida. As there parts of Florida, polls closed there.
She had no chance of winning. We're seeing that effect tonight with the county being blue, at least at this point.
Harold, it's just worth pointing out that the Fox News voter analysis is this rolling poll over several days, 120,000 voters asked a series of questions. When we look at that data that Sandra talked about, with the raw vote total coming in, we have a sense of how
Indiana's up to going to Trump.
it is. So far, it's lining up. Your thoughts, where you are?
So I think Carl pointed right. I think one of the things I would love to see in Georgia is not just racial breakdown, but just breakdown of women versus men. Because if indeed he's underperforming in the suburban areas in Indiana, you could extrapolate perhaps that happens in Georgia. But I would agree if these numbers hold up, if he's polling who being President Trump, 25% amongst black men. That's a challenge. If you see that in the other big cities in the blue states, Detroit and Philadelphia, that could be an issue as you think about the tightness of this race. But this campaign, the Harris campaign, has always said that it's women. They're going to be the key here. I agree with Robert. I think the North Carolina piece, the Stein-Robinson race and Humator race will have an advantage for Harris. But this is early. She's still ahead in Georgia. And I think once we get some more of these numbers in, once we get to 10, 15, 20%, I think we'll have a little bit better sense of whether or not this 25% African-American male thing is as serious as it seems.
And when we have on the screen, you have the numbers, and then you look at the percent of precincts in. Right now, it's at 3%. So as you look at the screen, that's what you'll be seeing throughout the night.
I mean, one of the things that the Harris campaign, which Harold just touched on, Dana, is that they're hoping that they're going to make it up with moderate some moderate GOP voters that will be persuaded over to the Harris camp. What's the feel for that at this stage of the game? I would be skeptical that there is a lot of that kind of vote out there. So Governor Kemp had some problems with President Trump for a while, but they patched those things up. And I believe that as Youngkin has been very good for President Trump in Virginia, that Kemp has an amazing operation there in
So
Georgia.
winning by
and he has been tireless
3
out
points
there for
with
him.
3%.
And I also think that we should thank Georgia for doing what it needed to do in order to help get us these results in as quickly as possible, to have integrity in the vote, for people to have confidence that the system worked for them, that they could get to those lines quickly, and that the rules are the rules. And that, I think, will help people feel confident about the results.
But the economy is the number one issue in Georgia by far.
Is it?
It's everywhere, but pretty much leads the way. In our Fox News voter analysis, they break Trump's way significantly on the issue of the economy.
Right, that's important. And the other thing we have to keep an eye on throughout the night, it seems to me, or what, to use a piece of really mini jargon we have, is just the low propensity voter.
You hate that word.
I think it's awful jargon, but I can't think of a quickly better way to say it.
People who don't vote for
They really set a great deal of store by the fact that they believe that they have reached these people and will turn them out in significant numbers.
But explain who they are. There are people who didn't vote in 2020, or maybe even didn't vote in 2016 and 2020.
They're the kind of people they think are largely for Trump.
Only 1% of them. Harris is remaining in the lead in Vermont.
They think they could be the decisive factor in this election. We don't know.
Scott has won the governorship in Vermont by pretty large.
If you look at some of these Georgia,
But Sanders has obviously won another
if you take a look at some of these rural
term
small
in the
counties,
Senate.
there are 100,
Bernie Sanders
50,
remains on top in
maybe
Vermont.
159 counties in Georgia. You'll see that
Virginia, Trump is ahead by 2,000 votes, but that's with less than 1% of the vote in, so you can't really say anything
Dig
but
into these numbers, and we'll head back to Bill momentarily. Election night just getting started.
If the first polls are about to close in hotly contested state of North Carolina, so we're going to have some data there to show you coming up right after this break as our special coverage continues.
we have half of the vote in Florida, but you will probably
Starting at 5
have to wait
a.m.,
until 8 p.m.
Lawrence, Steve, Ainsley, and Ryan bring us all the latest after Election Day on a special Fox and Friends tomorrow.
The votes are in. The next president of the United States is
Lord, we trust in you. We give to you everything. Our leaders, our president, our country. We give it all to you.
Jesus, we trust in you. Amen.
Here you go.
This is our legacy. I won't let anyone take it.
Ain't nothing to a turn of Yellowstone.
I can see it now. I know what to do.
There is no morality.
Trump is winning Kentucky by 71%. He's probably going to carry it, obviously. We are 10 minutes away from a very hot seat in hot set state in North Carolina.
Modern home security, my tale.
Maybe I can watch the Sabres game from
24/7
here.
monitoring that acts on an alarm in 5 seconds to help stop crime in real time.
Stop. This is simply safe. Please are on the way.
Oh.
Ever.
Maybe Simply Safe and I could work together.
Oh, that's cool.
Scaredy cat.
There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Fox Nation would like
Oh,
to
well.
thank all active
We're gonna
military
take
and
a
veterans
look
by
at
offering
Sabres game.
their first year of Fox Nation free. Stream exclusive shows that celebrate.
Sabres have power play, huh? Yes! Maybe that's a good sign for tonight. Right when we start the Sabres game, as you can tell, I'm a Sabres fan. You see the thing about the Bills? the guy got kicked out for wearing a Trump shirt. Against Linus Ullmark is funny. Hey, that's a win we like to see. Rather have a Sabres win than.
Thinking they were coming out the other side. The Turkey came in with a goal in each of his last 2 games against the Senators. You can tack another one on here.
Can we still a call?
This season, right there. Coming to that's what he does.
Car wash, they clean out the pool filter, and I went to go start the car, and it wouldn't start. So I had to go, so I went there to try to jump the truck, and it wouldn't work at all. So then he needed my car to go get a battery and do his thing, so.
Get away from them.
Oh,
no, we're not going to when you're down low because they think that's what the rough box said. Be physical in our end, be in the hole, and you see every time it's been on the zone while they've been down there, they've been really aggressive. Norris, Giroux, and Henderson.
How many people? Oh, nobody's in here. Oh, we're gonna watch them.
Yeah.
Clifton carries the
Do you want to eat your chicken dinner?
in the Ottawa zone.
How did you not score?
You can have a piece of your Halloween candy. Wait, what did you eat at Elena's house?
Bryson does a good job stepping up on the play.
We'll turn back to the election at 7:28 so we can look at the results.
Chasing after Benson, you got Penley coming up on the play here. Yeah, it's going to be a Bryson is going to get a hold here. And Sanders gets the first goal of this hockey game, and it is a power play goal. J.J. Paterka.
Oh, perfect.
Nothing feels as good as driving a new Hyundai. And now you can get a great deal.
We'll check in with. We'll check in with Suleiman right now. See about this election.
It's broken. I'm done.
About what people mean when they are dissatisfied. It's the same thing about what they mean by democracy or being independent. It's not.
We're actually going to take a look at some. Oh, in Georgia, Trump is now winning in Georgia by 7,000 votes. Virginia, Trump is ahead, but it's only 1% in. In Florida, he is winning with 53% of the vote, with 62 reporting. Harris is won in Vermont. Trump has won in Kentucky and Indiana. But as you can see here, Trump has a slight edge now. He has flipped Georgia back with 4% in.
It voted 66% for Joe Biden in 2020, and this is going to be very important to see the result here to see how Harris performs compared to how Joe Biden did in 2020. I'm joined now by a voter, Brian Flores. You just voted.
I did.
And who did you vote for?
For Harris.
And tell me about how you came to this decision.
So I wasn't gonna vote at all until my girlfriend was blowing on my phone telling me to go vote. And if I didn't, she was gonna break up with me. So now I'm here.
Was she seriously going to break up with you?
No, I made that up. She didn't say that, but it's funny you say that.
So she asked you to vote for Harris.
She did.
And so you voted for Biden in 2020, but what were you going to do this time?
I wasn't gonna vote at all.
You were just going to stay home.
I was gonna stay home, eat some chips or something. I don't know.
And so you came just before polls closed. But here's the thing: how long did it take? Most people have been saying it's taken them 5 or 10 minutes. Tell us how long it took you to vote.
So I got off the work at 4:30. Drove here about 30 minutes. I think I walked in like at 5 or 5-ish, and I was waiting for about 2 hours. I just walked out.
2. Brian, 2 hours to fix your address, right?
2 hours.
Brian,
So
Chris,
why are
thank
you
so
voting for
much.
Harris? I want to see that.
Well, that's devotion. That's devotion. 2 hours to fix your address.
I don't know.
Isn't there like a non-biased?
Huh, no.
Like, what isn't there like BBC or something or
That's-
It
PBS?
was not going to be there yesterday or the day before, which in a competitive race starts with one, and that's how you build. Right, so what do we have
Put
to
on
for
something that's not biased. Or just be more-
This isn't biased at all.
There you go. Yeah, I'd rather watch this.
So let's get a good start to the penalty kill.
Just kidding. We're putting on five. Say I like five.
Can't we just watch the game first?
Well, polls are about to close in some states. So. Down.
And write a check to every American, everywhere. It's almost $50 a person, and we are tied tonight in the presidential race.
I gather some Americans would love the $50 check as opposed to having to go through.
But the vice president
Looks like Braun's going to win another term as Indiana governor.
And do you think right now, looking at the numbers, that they're getting their money worth?
It's early. We'll find out. One of the reasons we spend so much in campaigns today is that the campaign process is a business. They start 4 years out. They begin raising money and hiring pollsters and all those kinds of things.
Harris is up by 0.1 in Virginia. Now 0.2. So she's probably going to start carrying away there. Trump is kind of ahead in South Carolina. His polls are about to close there. Georgia, he's up 57% to 42% in Georgia. That is very good for him, as 6% are reporting. In Florida, 64% are reporting. He's up 53 to 45. So definitely a good start for Donald Trump.
It might have been reparative as you look at some of these numbers early on. We'll have to see what suburban voters. I called with somebody said a little about the black voters in Georgia. It was not necessarily black voters in Georgia. It was suburban and rural voters in Georgia that put Biden over, and he even gave the seats to the Democratic senators there. So as we get more and more numbers here over the next few minutes, it'll be very, very telling, because if Georgia and North Carolina stay with Trump, Trump needs that in his math. He can't
Right.
do it without those states in reality. She was hoping, Kamala Harris was hoping for a flip there. You get a surprise
Well,
there.
the only way he can win without North Carolina is if he gets Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. Then it's pretty much the same. But then he'd also need Pennsylvania.
I think that Florida is so interesting because Governor Ron DeSantis is such an effective governor and great campaigner. And I think also that there are changes in Latino voters and generational changes. But I would also say this. When
Here we go.
75%
We're literally just a few seconds away from our next poll closings.
Well, Miami-Dade was flipped by DeSantis. He lost it in his first governor's race, and then he won Miami-Dade in the second. So maybe we're seeing a little bit of that play out in Miami-Dade right now. We'll see.
Do you want to do the TikTok sound for us?
It is 7:30. Polls have closed in North Carolina, South Carolina.
Because North Carolina, we should start getting raw vote totals right away. North Carolina is one of the fastest states, even despite Hurricane Helene. They're doing a really great job.
Yeah.
Secretary of State's office there.
They are.
We wait for the poll closing right now.
Here we go.
It is now 7:30 on the East Coast. Polls have just closed in 3 more states. North Carolina is the next state to watch, just like Georgia. It came down to the wire in the last presidential election. It has 16 electoral college votes.
Yeah.
And it will be a decisive one, potentially. The Fox News decision desk says it's too early to call.
Clear.
Also too early to call Ohio, but former President
Ohio.
Trump has a lead in our Fox News.
Ohio is also closed. West Virginia. We are going to call West Virginia for Donald Trump. He's going to win that state. 23 votes.
Fox News does project that Trump will win West Virginia. Not a very big surprise there. Obviously,
Yeah, not.
the former governor or
So 23-3 in Trump's favor. However, these are all easy states to go.
When you race for 270, the Electoral College votes needed to win the presidency, now ticking up with that last call, the former president at 23 and Vice President Harris at 3 throughout the night. That will go up as we make
Not really anybody, because it says Trump's winning, but it's so early.
Senator Joe Manchin is retiring, Democrat now independent. Fox News can project that Jim Justice will flip this seat to the Republicans.
That is a huge win.
One seat away from an outright majority in the U.S. Senate, assuming they don't lose any seats along the way that they already hold.
Yes, exactly. So the Fox News
So-
agenda said that it is too early to call another Republican target. Ohio, where the incumbent
If Morano beats Brown here in Ohio, you can really call up the Senate to be wraps here, which would be huge for the GOP. We're actually probably going to get results from the Senate races very soon.
At the moment, the balance of power looks like this in terms of what we have fed in so far into the data at this point. We've got 40 Republicans, 1 seat flip. That's the West Virginia seat. Jim Justice will be the new senator. He was the former governor for the state of West Virginia, and Democrats have 29 right now. You can see a lot of spaces still to be filled in over on the Senate side.
We're following a number of gubernatorial races around the country. Turning to those races, Fox News can project that North Carolina's Democratic Attorney General Josh Stein will defeat Republican Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. A lot of
Yeah, Stein's going to crush Robinson.
Now we're making that call.
And in West Virginia, Republican Attorney General Patrick Morrissey will succeed Jim Justice as the state's 37th governor. He has wanted that spot for a long time. He's run before.
Trump is maintaining a lead in Georgia right now, but still only 7% in Georgia. So we will see. 4% and Trump is winning.
Here on the East Coast. I was looking at Miami right now. Miami-Dade, the last time as a county, they voted for a Republican president. It's 1988, George Bush 41. And right now, you got 71% of the statewide voting, but you got 80% of the county voting here.
Wow, Trump is going to flip Miami-Dade County, which will be huge. Not really huge in the presidential level, but it will be huge for Republicans, obviously. Way too close to call in Georgia. Way too early, clearly. Harris is pulling weight in New Hampshire, though. Man, yeah, that's a stranger right there. He's a stranger. I'm probably just going to stick with Fox here.
What's going on?
Now, this was Trump's best performing rural county in 2020. And he's doing a number right now with the ad. Now, just go back to 2020, 4 years ago, and watch this. The percentage there was up, so he's doing a tick better. Raw vote here, 6,200 4 years ago. Raw vote now, in the same county, 4,900. So maybe that comes back.
Well, we're going to go to the most
All right,
important event of the
I
night.
gotta take Daddy, and then when I come home, you have to take a shower. Okay?
We're coming up on the most important event of the night, a Sabres game. Absolutely huge. Whoever wins this game, it's just huge for the presidential level. Ottawa wins. Yes. This is the only time we want blue to win. Get out. Piper, close the door. You gotta give him that call. Come on, that thing to my 0 viewers.
Everybody was taking care of the house there. On the counter, it's been piled down the right side. In addition to the block.
We're probably going to have Florida called soon. I'm just gonna watch Sabres game for a few minutes. Hopefully all these players already voted, as you should always. Even though celebrities don't really vote, and you can suck my balls if you don't believe that.
Wrestles it back into the analog zone. In behind the net, Allmark will lead it. Zone regroups with Shabbat.
Right side pass ahead for Greg. He's knocked
Good
out.
hit.
Connor Clifton with another hit there, and that dislodges the puck and sends Buffalo the other way to center, right side. But Turk and Thompson trying to combine to get it deep. Playing it up the wall. Thompson a couple of swipes at it, comes to center. Now Stutzla.
You're offsides, buddy. We're gonna go back to Fox. Yeah, we're just gonna do Fox. They're the least annoying. I mean, they're still annoying because they're biased.
And it's a different product. So that's why maybe you have a different electorate in North Carolina. The Democrats are looking to. Yeah, I look at Wake County, we're sharing the board a second.
All right, let's look at some North Carolina.
A lot of folks campaigning there. Kamala Harris was there. Donald Trump was there. Young folks.
Trump has extended his lead in Georgia. 4% still there. 72% Florida's voted in. We're probably going to be able to call this sometime soon. And we actually have some huge notice here. 2% reporting in North Carolina. Harris is ahead 68% to 30%. Obviously, only 2% are there.
Black turnout in Mecklenburg is below any other place I've seen in the South. Major county, the 5 major counties around Atlanta, Wake, Henrico, Richmond, Chesterfield, and Virginia. It's amazing, and I don't understand exactly why the black turnout in Mecklenburg has kept the Democrats from winning the state.
Well, I just wanted, you had spoken earlier about North Carolina and Hurricane Helene and the impact on, I believe, 25 counties were affected by Hurricane Helene. And one of the early discussions was, a lot of those counties are red. Are they going to be able to vote?
We're going to take a look here at the.
To Martha here, and
actually take a look at it. 61.
This with virgin eyes here. Okay, you're like 2% statewide. But what you're talking about, Martha, let me go ahead and draw this up here. All those 25 counties are west of Mecklenburg that we're talking about. They're west of Charlotte. Okay, this is the blue dot in the western part of North Carolina. That's Buncombe County. That's Asheville, and that helped Joe Biden erase about a 43,000 net gain on behalf of Donald Trump. All the other 25 counties, Trump was up about 270,000. So he came out of these 25 counties that were so wrecked by this hurricane with a net of 43. He lost 43, but a net of.
Virginia's looking decent for Harris right now, 58% to 39%. North Carolina's looking good for her, with 2% in, 68% in for her. Trump's looking good in Georgia, though, 60%.
And what the Democratic governor, what Cooper said, is that he was going to put these mobile voting vans in western North Carolina to make sure that nobody gets ripped off and casting a vote on behalf of him. Laura, the Harris campaign was pointing to schools like Appalachian State, the polling place in Boone County. They're saying schools in Pennsylvania and Nevada are huge lines. They're mobilizing young people.
Yeah, we're going to take a break from politics right now because we have a lot of elections for us right now.
15 polling. It's in a game, but it's hard to do. It's hard to play that way.
Let's go Buffalo.
So you can't get bored of playing the right way, so you just got to keep doing those little things because over time they become so big. Here's the next behind the net now. The corner deep in the Buffalo.
We're going to take a break from politics. No state's going to be called until around 8-ish, so we'll be fine. We'll wait outside, so yeah.
Is able to get it by pressure, and now Clinton will get the center. Take a hit for his efforts, but he gets it deep into the Sabre zone and tends to the bench for Ottawa there to think about that moment. Scrubs has it now for Buffalo. Center ice as he skates it to the elbow line with Rafferty right side taking the pass. Beats it down low. Jensen trying to win it back. Jensen far side away from Cousins, flips it to center. Who protects the puck? Dishes it back. Jensen will look back towards him, but that pass goes through down the corner. Battle continues. Off to the right of Lukin. 3.5 to go here in the opening period. Was indeed kept loose. Back to the point. Shabbat working there. Bryson watches it slide past. And Benson does a solid job to play it up ahead to the outlaw line. Here's Dylan Cousins. Shabbat, make sure he can't go anywhere. Then we'll get to this part, and the Senators, Jensen will look for some open ice on the right side. Shabbat, which is inside the outlaw line. It's ahead by Ridley Gray in the Buffalo zone. Here's Luca behind the net. Byron quickly ahead. Paterka touch pass at 7. Johnson gets it back to 77 for Buffalo. Right down the middle of that shot is stopped by Linus Hallmark.
Linus Hallmark has been tested here in a while in this game. JJ Paterka is going to get the chance right here as Todd Anderson leaves that one for him. He gets right in the middle of this. There's nowhere for him to go, so why not fire the puck? Got a great shot, trying to keep it down in an area where Linus Hallmark might not be able to handle it a little bit as he continues to go to the net. Hallmark able to gobble that one up, not making a sense of the rebound. Shot rate down 9-8 in favor of Ottawa.
1-0 on the board in favor of Buffalo. Face-off won by the Senators. With possession, Sanderson skates it left to
No
center.
real surprises so far at the presidential level. Maybe we're gonna still 2% in, 12% in, 5% in. Woo! Oh, here we go. Yeah, Palm Beach.
Thompson's going to get checked right here as he was going to move the puck a little 2-0 down low. Lukanen coming across with a pad, right pad. He's able to get the blocker on that one and push it away. Here's JJ Paterka with another good look at Linus Hallmark. You see Linus coming out being very aggressive, but no hesitation here getting punched to the net. I think that's a good sign.
We're about to have an hour of
Zucker and Greenway. Zucker gets it hard down the face-off. Bauer's going to walk it down from that point in behind the net. Still with it. Sends it up top. Ball circle. Zucker with a shot. Goes off the skate. Picked up by Power on the near board. So down in behind the net. Zucker after. Side steps one check. Zucker slide in front of the net. But there to help out and keep possession is McCloud. Greenway turns it. Fires. So Zucker right in front of Omar. Good get back by McCloud there at the line. Now it's Greenway trying to set it. Just wide to the far post. And it's cleared down the ice. Slicing on the play, and Slicing goes back after. Sabres looking for 3 of these periods in a row tonight here against the Ottawa team. Keep counting. 53 seconds to go. Turnover at the line. Sanderson can touch that with the outside. And the Sabres now with a chance to move out. Power goes right wide as it's chippy. Trying to trap the ball. 3 guys in the zone. Alan Steinhammer back and chuck right in front of the Sabres bench. And that's chipped out the ice, and that will go the length of the ice for an icing call. I invite you to be here at KeyBank Center on November 9th when the Sabres will take out the Calgary Flames. It's a Saturday night showdown.
Trump is ahead in Ohio with 4% voted in. He has extended his lead to Georgia with 12% in. 76% of Florida's vote is in. 2% still in North Carolina, so still no real movement in North Carolina's voting.
Triple wide. Here's Kachuk stepping up on the outside in front of the bench. Continuing the physical play on both sides. Good fun there.
Race off for 27 seconds to go. Sanderson shot the puck is steered to the corner.
On the near wall, Perkins absorbs the hit of Sanderson. Can't move up the ice. With 15 seconds in behind the Sabres goal. All right, they come up with it. Norris. Into the ice, and comes back to set.
And the period will come to an end. Or not.
Sends it part circle. Shot blocked by Perkins at the horn.
Now, this was a very good period here for the Sabres. They come out very physical.
Well, the key to the presidential race. Garrett Tenney is live in Omaha, Nebraska, with their very unique story. Hi there, Garrett.
Hey, Martha and Brett. Polls close here in just over an hour, and pretty quickly we should get a sense of where things are heading here in the 2nd Congressional District. Remember, Nebraska is not a winner-take-all state, and here in Omaha, it's
Still only 2% in for North Carolina, so
Democrats won this district single electoral vote in both 2008 and 2020. This time around, they have spent millions of dollars to try and make that happen again. Given how close this race is going to be, that single electoral vote could be a difference maker for Kamala Harris's campaign. Here in Douglas County is where to watch. Election officials will release the first results at 8 p.m. These will be early ballots that have already been counted, and election officials say those votes will make up about half of the entire vote here in Douglas County. What Democrats are going to be looking for as these results start coming in is the areas north and south of Omaha where there are a lot of Black and Latino voters who have
once 8 p.m. hits, it's going to be all chaos. So,
to change that. We'll have to see here in the next hour.
only 2% still in from. We have not really gotten a lot of.
Is giving real-time reaction from real voters as results unfold with voters' voices. We'll be talking about the issues that drove them to the polls. Harris, great to see you. Good evening.
Great to see you too, Brett. It is so exciting to find
Harris is up a little bit in New Hampshire with 9% in. Same thing with Virginia. She's up by just about. And same thing with North Carolina and South Carolina.
We know that former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris put 7 particular states in focus. And in those battleground states, if you live there, you know it has been intense. Voters are telling me all about the tidal wave of campaign ads, polling experts trying to dig in and learn how they voted and why. Well, that's because in recent years, those states have been key in determining the next president. But voters all across America know their power. And with me for the evening, the linchpin of our great republic, the voters' voices. You guys, it's good to see you. Welcome. They fall all along the full political spectrum, and over the next several hours, we will hear their take on the race for president and what the issues were that swayed them one way or the other. And the other person who's with us tonight is a friend I've invited, polling expert Lee Carter, president of Mass Landscape and Partners. Warm welcome to you, Lee.
Yeah, big night. Thank you. Big night. So excited to be here.
Yeah, we've been talking to voters and so on and so forth, and let's just put our hands real quick. Because the numbers were 84 million. Just and still counting on those mail-in ballots. It's huge, incredibly large, setting records this year. How many of you voted early?
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, and how many of you voted today? Well, we would expect not as many, right? So how does that compare with what you find in your house?
Well, what we're looking at right now, they're saying about half people have early voted. And I think it's so we could be looking at record turnout. Now, there's some people who say it's going to be more than half the party voted early, but I think we're going to be looking at the numbers are showing that we're looking for a big number.
Yeah, that would be huge if that were the case. 2020 really was the worst on that. Okay. A quick rundown of what we'll be showing you tonight before we go from our team compiled key moments from the Trump and Harris campaign. We are showing some of those comments to American voters along the way, and they use their computers to respond to those in real time. The lines on the screen that will show you their reaction. Red representing Republicans, blue for Democrats, and green.
8% in South Carolina. Trump maintains a pretty large lead. In North Carolina, Kamala Harris has a lead in North Carolina, but only 2% in.
This is not 2016 or 2020. We can all see that Donald Trump is even more unstable and more unhinged, and now he wants unchecked power. At this time, there will be no one there to stop him. Not even the Supreme Court, which months ago told the former president that he is essentially immune no matter what he would do in the White House.
I'm mostly watching the Gray Line because we were told so much about independents and how important they are. What did you learn with this?
So you could really see Democrats responded favorably, but independents gave this a D while Republicans gave it an F. And one of the things that we heard from independent voters is that Kamala was supposed to be this joyful candidate. She positioned herself right off the bat as somebody who was going to be different, bring us together. She said there's more in common than divides us. And the more negative she got, the more negative independent voters got towards her. And I think we saw that happen in the polls. She had a surge in the beginning and things.
Can you move this to the dog? Oh, don't have this on here. Feel how hot you need this.
Yeah. Well, there's no.
He's running on a campaign.
Then you're gonna have to go sit over there.
Demoralization. It's a campaign of hate. Her lies and her slanders are
Here we go.
very shameful and really inexcusable. Today we're going to talk about the
They're
real
gonna get on the
character of Kamala. And a person who has no remorse for the anguish she's
I want to sit on the
inflicted
couch
upon
No,
families.
you're gonna have to put it over there or take this off. It's
because it's only 53%.
And keep this misery going.
Then
And she's
turn it
going to
off
keep it going
for a
as long
while.
as she
I'm
can.
live
Because
streaming.
that's the only way she can get elected.
Feel like I'll be back.
I mean, it's a very different reaction here than we had from the other voters. Democrats, not surprisingly, gave this an F. Independents kind of flatlined at A to C. Republicans gave it an A. I think this kind of rhetoric is priced into Donald Trump. They want to see him be tough. They want to see him be a fighter. And a lot of the things that he talked about were things that people agreed with. So I think people give him more of a pass on the tough rhetoric than they do on Trump.
All right, let's talk to some voters. I can't wait for this part. Okay, so Steve, you are a Democrat, and I understand you voted for Trump, and you live in the all-important battleground of Pennsylvania. So tell me about your journey and what it's been like, and why you made that decision as a Democrat.
Well, Harris, for me, it was very simple. The issues for me are
Oh, we have some more.
anti-Semitism, being strong on our greatest ally,
3% in.
economic strength.
20% in Georgia. Trump still maintains the 60%. The 60%.
Of Donald Trump as president, and he demonstrated all of that. And it was a no-brainer. It was been a very interesting reaction for people to see me monstrally promote my report for Donald Trump, but I also have supported Dave McCormick. So that was sort of a double-edged whammy for me, but it was a no-brainer. And supporting Donald Trump was an easy decision.
Yeah, as a Democrat, you said it, people were reacting to that. I appreciate your answer. I appreciate everybody's time, and we'll hear more from our voters' voices throughout
Trump
the night.
got Kentucky.
Back to Brett and Martha.
He's going into this White House.
So the clock is ticking down to one of the biggest poll closings of the night. Pennsylvania is about to finish the voting process. Our special coverage continues with Jesse Waters and Sean Hannity coming up.
At SimpliSafe, we build advanced security sensors and cameras for your whole home, powered by 24/7 professional monitoring and Fast Protect technology, exclusively from SimpliSafe for faster police response. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
We all know Mark Wahlberg as an American movie star, but what makes him unique is what he does when he's not on the silver screen. Mark is passionate about his family, his faith, and his country. He joined me on a tour of our 9/11 mobile exhibit. With his powerful voice, he's helping us to never forget those who have sacrificed so much.
You guys are doing amazing work.
Our foundation, you know what we do. We, take care of our first responders and Gold Star widows that their loved ones died in the line of duty and leave young children behind, catastrophically injured service members, and we build these mortgage-free smart homes. You're a man of faith.
Absolutely.
St. Francis of Assisi said, brothers and sisters, while we have time, let us do it.
Absolutely. And we all have to do our part. There is definitely a role for
There's
everyone
no
to
real
contribute in
surprises
some
right
sort of
now.
way.
Oh,
We don't hold any grudge with any New York Boston sports rivalries because of all that you guys do. I had the good fortune of being able to visit Afghanistan and to see
80% in
the sacrifice that our
Florida.
brave
Trump
men and
still
women
maintains a
actually
7-point
made
lead.
to provide our freedoms.
Made a 10-point lead.
I don't take that lightly. As I got involved, I was inundated with calls about how big people could help and contribute. And
It represents all the great heroes that died on 9/11, and we're always going to hold it to the highest standards of any foundation in America.
couldn't find a more worthy cause. The fact that this is something that has literally touched and affected every single person, they just have to be a part of it. And their reputation is beyond impeccable. Everybody knows where the money's going. Every single dollar. God bless you. We need your help to deliver mortgage-free homes to catastrophically injured service members, Gold Star, and fallen first responders, families with young children. Please contribute $11 a month to support their efforts by visiting t2t.org.
Oh, here we go.
Welcome back. We do have a call to make. The Fox News.
All right, yeah, we'll call South Carolina.
Project that former President Trump will win the state
You idiot.
of South Carolina. So we're
Freaking
counting
idiot.
down.
Yeah, we'll call South Carolina too. It's a 32-3. We're winning. We're winning by so much, bro. We're gonna win the fight.
2-3 for Vice President Harris as the states are called. We will continue to see that, and obviously 270 is the magic number.
Yeah, well, I mean, go. A lot of filling in of this board and these states, but some places are getting very interesting as we get closer to our next round of poll closings, which are coming up in just a little while. And that will include Florida, where the Trump campaign is watching the results tonight. Let's go to Steve Harrigan. He is at Senator Rick Scott's campaign headquarters in Bonita Springs, Florida, which has tightened up a little bit. That race has gotten interesting. Steve?
Is this stuff clean?
Martha, they're starting to cheer here. It's a pretty relaxed, confident move.
Not
Rick
the
Scott
stuff in the
told us earlier,
basket, the stuff
this
in
was
the
the
bag.
first time he's had
Trump
a
has-
state office where he's actually been predicted to win. He said that's largely because
Georgia has Trump ahead with 61% in. So he has what? There's a large lead in Georgia right now. Only 23% in, so you never know. But it looks like Trump's gaining all around. He has 55% of the popular vote right now.
one is an abortion initiative on the ballot that would extend Florida's strict abortion law. The other would be to legalize recreational marijuana. Both of those items will need 60% to win. Martha, back to you.
All right, Steve Harrigan, thank you very much.
The delay on the TV that just got. We're back to the panel, and we asked
4% in. Trump has kind of, not really actually.
Look at some suburban bellwethers coming in. Hamilton, Indiana.
Gains 3% once 4% is in.
Back to President Trump. Loudoun County, Virginia, we know has really been trending to the left. It's been a swing to the right by 8 points compared to 2020. So you look at something like that, you understand what a car road to. They said it could be tight in Virginia. Fayette, Georgia, Trump +2. That's a place that
Ohio now has Harris ahead in Ohio. Wow, that is huge. Oh, Harris is ahead in Ohio right now.
This is like political malpractice that she didn't pick Josh Shapiro.
That's very interesting. With 21% in, it was going to look like Trump was going to win that state, though. Ooh.
A lot at Pennsylvania. Election night in America just getting started.
It is getting close in Ohio.
17 states plus Washington, D.C., including New Hampshire, Illinois, Tennessee, Florida, plus the critical battleground.
If we win Pennsylvania, we win the whole thing.
All right, polls have closed in Pennsylvania, Florida, Tennessee. Who else? What else?
The moment is here. America is watching.
And it is now 8 o'clock in New York. Polls have just closed in over a dozen states. All eyes, of course, are on Pennsylvania, which could be the deciding state in this race. 19 electoral votes at stake. Fox News Decision Desk says that this is
Now we have a lot to call
in Pennsylvania, as we will be watching that one really until the bitter end.
So Fox News is projecting that former President Trump will win the state of Florida.
Hey, there's a big one right there for President Trump. They're going to say that Florida.
In New Hampshire, where Vice President Harris has an edge.
New Hampshire has an edge, okay? That's serious.
Says that it's too early to
We're gonna call Tennessee to go to Donald Trump right now.
Vote to the presidential winner in each of their congressional districts. Harris will win the first district, the rural second district. Too early to call in the state of Maine.
In the second district and the first district of Maine will go.
Win Tennessee, a longtime Republican stronghold. Not a real surprise there. Further south, the former president will again
Win Alabama.
Big numbers there.
And the former president will win neighboring Mississippi. Trump will cruise to victory in Oklahoma as well, where Democrats haven't won a single county since 2000.
And Missouri will also deliver a win for the former president. Vice President Harris will also take some big victories this hour.
They're actually going to call Illinois quickly. That's interesting. I thought they were going to wait.
Illinois added 19 electoral votes to her talent.
She will also win New Jersey, another reliably Democratic state.
You lost New Jersey?
New Jersey might be a little bit tight, but we're already ready to call New Jersey in my home state, exactly. Voters in Massachusetts will deliver a clear victory to Harris. Also no mystery in those states.
Staying in the Northeast, Fox News can project that the vice president will win Connecticut. She will also win
Connecticut.
Maryland, that state with 10 electoral votes. It's an interesting Senate race there.
Yeah, Harris will also take Rhode Island, another Democratic stronghold, and she has a lead in Delaware. President Biden's home state.
Yeah, she's going to win Delaware as well. I'm going to call that right now. She will win Delaware.
The vice president will win the District of Columbia, which
In
has
the district.
never voted for a Republican. And it continues not. If you look at the Electoral College and the race to 270, it obviously changes with all of these numbers. It is in the corner of your screen, 105 to Harris 72.
8%
full screen. As we start to fill in this map,
already.
little by little, we're going to get closer to 270. Remember, there's some big states, including California, all the way out in the west, that will adjust this number for the vice president. We're back with our panel. Jessica, Jesse, and Kellyanne, we added you. Jesse, thoughts?
Are we sure about New Jersey? Oh, man, I voted next to a guy this morning wearing a garbage bag, so I thought the state was a lot. I guess I was wrong about that. I also just heard from a person who was not going to vote, and then his girlfriend called him and said, if you don't vote for Kamala Harris, we're breaking up. So we just drove 2 hours to the polling station and waited 2 hours in line. So I still don't understand people. And I'm not going to give you the county by county because I don't have that in my wheelhouse. But I will say I was just watching something interesting in Georgia where she's not performing as well with black voters as Joe Biden.
Donald Trump's lead has shrunken to 55 to 44 in Georgia with 33% in. In Texas, we finally have some results. Harris is in a slight edge with 4% lead, 51 to 47, but definitely too early to call. 3% of Pennsylvania, Harris has a big lead, 72 to 26.
Feel they're getting ahead financially.
Harris is performing well in Ohio right now.
Bravo to the Democrat machine to make this race competitive. Because she came out of nowhere, no one knows who she is. She didn't run a very specific campaign.
Yeah,
they are making it a very competitive race. And we haven't called anything surprising except for New Jersey.
You were surprised.
I was.
Jesse Dollar, welcome. Good to see you. Yes.
And there goes her lead in North Carolina. It's now only 4%.
I'm sorry for you. You have been bragging about that one for months to me.
I was wrong once.
One time. It's been interesting to see, obviously, what's going on in the suburbs. If this is a harbinger of a good night for Kamala Harris, that's where it's going to happen. Obviously, you need the urban turnout to be huge. And I think Philadelphia was a big story this day, already in the first hour of election day polling, that they were smashing records, and we'll see where that all turns up. But what I'm really focused on is seeing, once all the exits are out, what ended up being the 1, 2, and 3 most important issues. Because in Ann Selzer's final poll of Iowa, she had preserving democracy as number 1. That also showed up in the Marist polling. And if it is preserving democracy, then that bodes very well for Kamala Harris's evening. And if it goes preserving democracy, the economy, and then abortion, that's definitely a good night, especially to your point, Brett, from a few minutes ago, where you said that she had closed the gap with Donald Trump in terms of who's best to handle the economy and is leading on protecting the middle class and cares about people like me.
Harold, can we talk a second about Florida? It wasn't close. We just called it for the former president. It's a big electoral vote haul. But if you think about it, in elections past, Florida was a swing state.
Yep.
2022, Ron DeSantis changes that and makes a red statement, even in Miami-Dade County. The Republican is taking home a vote, including Latino vote, which could vote something else beyond Florida.
DeSantis will probably be a big part of that story. It's important to note that they also had an abortion initiative on the ballot there in Florida. It looks like it's going to win with the right to an abortion initiative, 57-43, almost like the same numbers that Trump won with, maybe a little bit better. So people split the ticket there, those that were going out, and indeed, perhaps some Republicans voted for that. But you got a strong governor like you have in Florida. You have one in North Carolina. She's going to need that governor, Kamala Harris, to help her get over the hump there. I mean, they got a Democratic governor there and a Democratic that's now been elected. I'm curious about these suburban areas. I listened to Carl and now Jessica, now Kellyanne. It may be that even in Virginia, and you were talking, Britt, you look at the issue around LGBTQ plus and how those issues have played in the Virginia school system there. And that Loudoun County number is an interesting number. Yet you see in some of the other suburban areas in Indiana, she has not performed quite as well. So it's interesting to me to see, and maybe it's not, these states are a little different now than voters are in suburban areas.
Yeah, Bill, you have Loudoun County.
Yeah, we're Fairfax County. That's an ex-urban county.
Yeah.
What
was 2020?
Let's look at 2020 versus now.
Okay, so what I want to show you guys is the Fox Insights that we have, and we can go into this county here. You see this green outline? So we can show you what.
The reason she's winning Pennsylvania by so much is because only Pittsburgh and Allentown have had results. So she
got a 3.3 jump higher than he was performing 4 years ago. Now we'll clear this off here. How it computes here on the computer with 4 years ago. That's a slip about 4.5 points for Kamala Harris in that county. And Harold, maybe it is the issues in the schools. Maybe it is the transgender issue that the Trump team pushed so much during this campaign, and maybe that's having an impact on that. But let's move away from Virginia. There's a couple of interesting stories that you want to bring our viewers up to date on. Just punching around this map here. You can find a little good news for Kamala Harris. You can find good news for Donald Trump, and I'm going to show you why here. Down in Florida, just look at Duval County and Jacksonville, okay? This is advantage Trump from where he was 4 years ago in Duval County. See that? You see that swap? Flipped it by 5 points there. Now I want to go up to Georgia here. And in the rurals, east of Atlanta and to the south, and then the Fox Inside here, okay? That's Baldwin County. The county seat.
they're gonna start counting votes in Michigan. It looks like it's gonna be Detroit only. So they've started counting votes in Michigan. However, it's just Detroit, so you can't really say anything.
About 44% countywide. Trump right now, at this moment, with 84% of the vote reported in Baldwin County, he's up 7.5 points from where he was in 2020. You know, the Trump team's going to take that. Likewise, the metro area of Atlanta, when we pop out here, you have 26 counties to concentrate on. The Harris folks are telling us in Douglas County is that she's performing better than Biden did 4 years ago. Okay, these are suburban voters all over the Atlanta metro area.
I want to watch the
Sabres game on this. 267 right now. All right, you got about a quarter of the vote still out there. Biden finished in Douglas County with a net gain of 17,360. That would be good news for the Harris campaign if this number holds there in Douglas County. Let me pop out here a moment and show you another thing that we were looking at. Stay in Georgia for 1 second. I can.
Just before we leave there, the Fox News voter analysis and the network's exit polls, we're being told, show the former president doubling his percentage of black men in Georgia. He was at 11% in 2020, and now at 25%, according to these two surveys.
So that may sync up with what. So it's starting to match the raw vote. That may sync up with what we're seeing now in Fulton County. Now you got almost half the votes still out there, okay? 52% is the estimated number of votes.
Trump has taken the lead in Texas, so that's kind of good for him. You want to just lock these states down.
Look at the raw vote total here. It's impressive, 129,000. But look what Joe Biden did in the same county, okay? 242,000. You have to go to the precincts, where the rest of the remaining vote comes from, and maybe we take a look at that in a moment here. But that would
would be, you're one of 159 in terms of population. So maybe what you're saying, Brett, about the African-American male vote there is true in places like Fulton County, Georgia. Just want to caution you, there's still a lot of vote out there, but we're going to keep a very close eye in Fulton County starting right now into the night here in Georgia.
And Bill, do you have any indication that turnout is a bit lower than 2020? Because that would affect some of what you're doing in these comparisons as well.
I can tell you this, Mark, before election day,
It's 100%
Brad
fine.
Raffensperger, the
But
Secretary of State, set up an awesome website.
advertising it on
Just county by county with the early vote. I was on there every hour of every day just trying to analyze it.
this, okay? So
One thing that was evident from the early vote, don't know about today just yet, but based on the early vote, the African-American population of Georgia is about 33% statewide. What the political analysts will argue is that you need, in order to win statewide as a Democrat, you need 30% of that vote. And the early vote indicated that Kamala Harris was just a tick above 26%. So that's another indicator, maybe another data point that we need to keep an eye on throughout the night as to what Brett was talking about. Oh my God. Where are you looking at?
Well, I've been keeping an eye on this issue that was raised in our voter analysis. It said that fully half of all voters say the future of democracy is the most important factor in the vote. That's a big number. And that's a lot of people worried about that. Now, Trump gets some of those voters, but 60% of them or more go for Harris. I think that issue, democracy, is about one thing, about Trump and fear of Trump. But it's the same factor we keep coming back to time and again. Is, the Trump factor in this race is, was he able to overcome the resistance to him, which has been so dominant in three previous cycles? And that's what that is about.
Because if you were just running on the issues that include the most important, economy, immigration,
right,
you wouldn't see
that. But yet, half the people thinking it's important. That's a Trump. That's a Trump.
A huge issue for 2020, and it also resurfaced a bit with candidate selection in 2022 that he got blamed for. So the question is, are we going to see the increase in his approval numbers translate into something positive?
And if you work your way back to what that's about January 6th.
Can I clarify something?
Is he paid politically for January 6th? It's still being paid.
And it also was hammered over and over again by current President Biden, the former candidate. The threat to democracy was really on his lips pretty much every minute.
And Vice President Harris didn't take that ball for a lot, but she did come back to it towards the end of the campaign.
The other thing about it, I think it's striking, is it shows you the power of the media. Because in many ways, it's a BS issue when you think about it. Go back to January 6th, which was supposed to be the moment when we all thought we should fear this, and our democracy was fragile. It was the premise of the January 6th special committee that we, as the co-chairman of the committee, put it, we came critically close to losing our democracy. It's ridiculous. I mean, that our democracy is pretty sturdy. Our checks and balances worked. The thing was over in a matter of hours, and yet here we are. It's still a fact.
And here we are with a political rise from January 7th, 2021 to a candidate who is at least tied and in a good position that has a path to 270 to win the White House. Stand by, panel, if you would.
Speaking of that, let's go check in with Aisha Hasni at the Trump campaign headquarters. She is in West Palm Beach, Florida tonight. What's the mood over there? A long way to go tonight, but how are things looking, Aisha?
Things are looking good here. The crowd behind me still hasn't really filled up the convention center, and that's because I'm told that there's a long security line. Apparently, a lot of folks are at the Hilton party right next door and still haven't made their way over, and that's because there's a really long security line. They got to go through the max before they get in here. So that is what's holding up the people, the spaces that you see behind me, why that hasn't filled up just yet. I want to just talk about you guys.
Her lead in Ohio has gone down to 5% in the last few minutes.
He was telling me how it was a record early vote turnout, and that's why. And he thinks that's going to resonate across the country today. People are going to come out and vote for Trump. Back to you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let's check in with Jackie Heinrich. She's at the Harris campaign headquarters in Washington, D.C. Hi, Jackie.
Hey there, guys. It's quite a different scene out here compared to where Aisha is. I should note that at Harris headquarters, we don't actually have Harris campaign officials because they're all in Wilmington tonight. So we're trying to get a sense from campaign officials about who was invited to this event, how many thousands will be here, who's in the crowd. But I am hearing from people close to the vice president, sort of watching these reports come in. They started tonight very anxious about Georgia, and the first batch of data that they're getting is leaving them feeling pretty buoyed about it. A source close to the VP says that they're seeing really high turnout in the metro Atlanta area, and as of a short while ago, they had a 10-plus point lead among women showing up. And also, they noted that black turnout was slow to start, but it is finishing strong, and they attribute that to their get out the vote effort. One thing they've been wrestling with is whether or not they underestimated Trump's get out the vote effort. So far, they're not seeing signs of that, but they're definitely feeling happy about that first report coming out of Georgia, guys.
All right, Jackie, thank you so much. Before we make some race calls, Harold, you wanted to clarify something you said.
The 58% 42, the Florida abortion initiative, that it didn't pass though, because you had to have 60%. So I misspoke, but he got 58%, but fell by 2. And then in fact, they had a marijuana initiative, which I would have voted against on that, but it didn't reach the number either to get to 60.
Yeah,
so both failed.
Governor DeSantis is touting both of those things down there in Florida. Okay, we have some calls.
We begin in Pennsylvania, home to a razor-thin Senate race between incumbent Democrat Bob Casey and Republican businessman Dave McCormick. The Fox News decision desk says this is too early to make a call in Pennsylvania.
It's only in Pittsburgh is the vote is already.
News can project that Rick Scott, the Republican senator from Florida, will win his second term. We'll pause for a forum down there with Aisha. In Maryland, it's too early to call the race between Democratic County Executive Angela Alsobrooks and former Republican
Margie and Olivia and them, they're so liberal, and they moved to one of the most conservative states. I don't understand.
To probably try to turn it blue.
Why would you move there if you hate Republicans so much?
Yeah,
they run things, but you move
to one of the best
once again in the
states.
state of Tennessee, another reliably conservative state.
Never understood
In
that.
Mississippi,
He lost Rhode
GOP
Island.
Senator Roger Wicker will take home another victory. The Fox News decision desk can project that in Massachusetts, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren will win her third term.
Connecticut's Democratic Senator Chris Murphy will also win a third term. Not enough data to project the main Senate race quite yet.
And in New Jersey, current Democratic House Rep Andy Kim will win his race, putting him in the upper chamber for the first time. This is the Bob Menendez seat. In Delaware, Democratic House Representative Lisa Blunt Rochester will win her first Senate race.
In Rhode Island, Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse will return for a fourth term.
He is now polling way in Texas, so you can probably see this being called sometime soon.
Republicans securing their seat. One seat was flipped, that is West Virginia.
She's barely winning in Virginia, though.
Jim Justice in West Virginia. 34 Democrats have secured their seats in the Senate, and a long way to go in the upper chamber as well.
We have a lot of raw vote totals starting to dump in from those early states. More Democracy 24 coverage ahead as we await the next round of poll closings.
Can I turn on the Sabres game now?
While you watch Fox News,
For like
stay
a few
connected at
minutes.
foxnews.com.
Like a
with
few
live
minutes.
blogs, interactive features,
For not at all now.
Your ultimate second screen.
Someday it's all going to be yours.
Oops.
I promise.
He's winning the popular vote.
What?
He's winning the popular vote.
He's gonna win the popular vote. He's gonna win it. He's gonna win the popular vote and then lose the election. Then we're gonna eat our words.
You destroy me, you destroy yourself.
He flipped the seat.
Yeah, it was a seat up for grabs there.
Network this week.
You on guard today? Oh, nah. They just got Simply Safe. It protects the whole home inside and out.
Stop. This is Simply Safe.
Whoa. That was impressive. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
If you're shopping for a home, you could browse hundreds of listings to find homes with big yards, or compare lot sizes all at once. Search in full color to find space to grow. Home search will never be the same again.
Oh no, she's winning in Kansas. 6% and she's winning in Kansas.
Yes.
Like one city.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're chill. Dude, he's doing really well in Georgia. 43% and in Virginia. If he wins Virginia, massive.
We believe at New Day USA, we have a noble purpose. Our purpose is not just closing a loan.
She's only up by 3%. What? 50% to 48%. Actually, 2% now. She's winning by
How much is the
We're the ones that are there to help them.
32% in. She's winning by 30,000. There's some rural counties left that haven't started counting yet. Richmond is almost done counting. A lot of South Virginia is not done. But Richmond, Norfolk, and Alexandria are almost done. But a lot of South Virginia is not yet.
1% in Alabama.
It's
So
500.
economy, obviously the biggest issue in this election. Let's go to Sandra Smith with a look at how that is playing out in our Fox News voter analysis. Sandra.
Hey, Martha. Hey, Brett. Yeah, just taking a look. This is the national level. But before I dive into Pennsylvania, because we want to get a look at how voters were thinking about the economy there when they decided who they were going to vote for. But this is their view on the nation's economy. And as we knew leading up to Election Day, it's pretty negative. But the thing to point out here is when you compare it to 2020, those that have a negative view of the economy, this is about 6 points higher than it was just 4 years ago. I want to look at Pennsylvania and show you what we're seeing there, okay? When it comes to those that are looking for change, we know this is a big part of the story of this election day.
Erie County has her up.
For total upheaval. This is Pennsylvania voters, okay? 28%. And you were to break that down by candidate, which we can now do as we work our way into closing time there in PA, 66% voted for Trump. This is a really interesting story. Those who are looking for substantial change, it is about split with the edge going to Donald Trump by 3 points. Okay, so substantial change. Those are people looking for still big change, and it is about even in PA. We've got a lot more we're going to dig into in Pennsylvania. We'll have that for you in a bit. Right, Martha.
Thanks. So let's bring in our Fox Business panel. Maria Bartiromo, Larry Kudlow, Charles Payne, and Kevin O'Leary. Great to see you all. Maria, it's not just the betting markets on the election, it's the markets that were betting prior to this election day. What are we to divine from all of that tonight?
Well, I think when you're talking about investors and businesses, Brett, Martha, I think you really have to look at economic policy and tax policy in particular. The one issue that is bothering investors and corporations out there is the plan of Kamala Harris to raise the corporate tax rate to 28%. We haven't seen that in a long time, and the word on that is that cuts into wages. Something's got to give. When a corporation is looking at a 28% corporate tax rate, it's likely that means less money for
Guess who's a corporation?
Fox.
So that's one of the issues that business investors are worried about. Her economic policy, of course,
So we're
Trump
cooked
has
if
talked about
she's
15%
elected?
Corporate tax rate if you're doing business in America. Also, you want to expect issues and differences on energy policy, and probably the sleeper of them all is regulation. Kamala Harris is likely to come out with a whole host of new regulations around the climate change agenda, which has been a real issue for the Biden-Harris administration already. Things like a company has to evaluate and assess the impact from emissions from their companies and that company's customers. Very expensive, creates the need to hire lots of consultants, and that's what business is worried about when it comes to economic policy. Maria, thank you. Larry Kudlow, join the party here. Tell us what you're watching as we start to get more of these numbers loading in here on the Electoral College map.
Well, I think right now, I'd like to be in Trump's shoes right now, but I don't think it's conclusive. We need more numbers, need more data. Some good news, but I just don't think there are enough numbers. I agree with the assessment that Maria made on the.
They're really slowing down in North
To be
Carolina.
honest with you, number one, I don't think the stock market yet knows who's going to win or what the policies are going to be. It's watching like a hawk, but I don't think it knows yet. I don't know. We've got to see what happens tonight. Number two, Trump has this working class coalition, it's a different Republican Party, You know, it started with him in 2015, 2016. It's ebbed and flowed. I think it's closed in high tide. The question is, with that kind of coalition, working folks, whites, blacks, Hispanics, young people, others, will it work? Will it hold? Was there enough of an expansion?
She's only up by
in Mr.
1.4
Trump's
now
base,
in Virginia.
to put him
She's up by
over and
just
win?
under
I mean,
20,000
a
votes
lot
in
of people
Virginia.
think he is. He's going to get much better numbers with Hispanics than he ever had before. He's going to peel off a lot of black votes for it, young people's vote. That was his strategy. I think it's a good strategy. It's not your father's Republican Party anymore. It's not that they hate business, but business roundtable.
And yeah, now he's winning in Ohio with 39% in. He's winning by 0.1, so you never know there, obviously. 7% in Virginia. She's winning by 4, but that's because of Kansas City. North Carolina, 11% in. She's winning by 4%. Here's a breakaway.
Has changed, but the issue of the economy, the vice president has closed that according to the latest polls. I mean, he was up big when you asked that question earlier, but as she closed, it got to within 2, 4, 6 points for us in the closing days.
Yeah, Vice President Harris benefited from a couple of things, I think. First, the media. Every time economic data comes out, it's great, phenomenal. Of course, Friday, we learned that last month we lost 28,000 private sector jobs. And by the way, you can talk about all the storms you want. All the experts who they put together to come up with these consensus numbers also factor that in. Our jobs numbers have been going down steadily since 2021, and now wages are really beginning to drop big time. Last week we had what they call employment cost index. Wages are dropping, and that's bad news for everyone, particularly folks who are already having trouble keeping up. The inflation issue, and Trump went out on a dangerous limb.
He is now winning Virginia. He's winning Virginia by 0.1%.
No one will talk about the fact that the tariffs that he put
That
in
is
already,
interesting. He's winning
worked tremendously. Have really
0.1% in Virginia.
The Biden administration pounced on them. They didn't take them away. They actually added to them. So,
Really weird election so far.
A lot of people are listening to that. But still, folks know the bottom line is that the top 20% of Americans,
the combination of
the
Christmas
consumption,
Eve
they
and the night
put all
before
of the money under Biden-Harris policies, including flooding our country with cash we did not need. It was fun for regular folks when you got the stimmy check and went to the mall, but now everyone outside of the top 20% suffering big time.
May I add one thing, Mark, that to the comment on jobs?
He's one Mississippi.
Here too goes right back to policy, and that is the open border policy. The open border has not just had the effect on national security and our own personal security. The open border is an economic issue. For the last several years, what we have been seeing is an increase in jobs for non-citizens, illegal and legal, and a decrease in jobs for American citizens. That's important people understand. Kevin O'Leary just with the quick time,
5% in whoa. So Detroit, they're counting votes in Detroit. He's ahead in Detroit with 30% in Detroit.
Well, I was disciplined when I was listening to both parties and disappointed we didn't get into policy enough because it got crazy towards the end.
Yeah, there's nothing really to say about Pennsylvania besides Erie. That's gonna be scary. Erie's definitely gonna be a flip county. Yeah, he's winning in Virginia. He's about to take a lead in North Carolina.
Unrealized capital gains is beyond insane. Nobody ever discussed that in the last 2 weeks. I look at that. I have to invest more money no matter what happens. And the idea of price controls, that's a bad idea too.
Because it's clear that he's ahead.
They are very, very dangerous ideas.
But don't you think, I mean, with all due respect, Trump hammered away on every single thing you just talked about. He completely opposes the corporate tax.
All I remember is Nazi Hunter.
He has taken a significant lead now in Texas. Let's look at 52% in. Like, she's got to start performing real well here in Georgia. And now, here we go. Arkansas will go to the former president. Also Louisiana, I think. No, we don't call that yet.
And as you look at the race to 270, as it ticks up, 111 for former President Trump.
Is that it?
72
Seriously?
For Vice President Harris. That will be on your screen all night. And the ticker there on the bottom. And then we'll scroll through the races by state. We'll look at Senate races, some House races, and governor's races as well. We're back with our panel here in studio. I think, Britt, they're still talking about the economy in that other studio.
Yeah, we can call Arkansas. So 111 to 77 here. I did call.
When we were on the campaign trail when I came in, they're absolutely right. I mean, we did not have a good debate, for instance, over economic issues, and it clearly is the number one issue on people's mind. Right?
We didn't want to get into policy.
Yeah.
Keeping an eye here on what are called non-MAGA Republican voters.
Yes.
And there's been a lot of discussion over the past.
So it looks like she's
Republican when they're not the governor.
Never Trump movement.
He's not going to
Would end up being without mattering.
Mm-hmm.
Our voter analysis memo tells us that if she wins, that will be the decisive factor. I'm not quite sure I buy that, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I told you this.
And I think that what we have.
Oh, what? It says on this that he's up by 0.3, not her. Oh, never mind. I thought it was. My bad. Yeah. Wow, the Senate race with Kane and Cows. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah? Sure. Well, we've said all night and all week, gee, we don't know anything. Well, here's what we do know.
He's only up by 2 in Texas, 2%.
And only one party participated in the Republicans. We had a lot of strong men, and I think at least one woman running the Republican primary. One candidate and a super PAC spent $250 million.
Winning by 0.4 in North Carolina now, as more vote comes in.
Over $100 million. I like them all very much. I'm glad they're part of the party. Donald Trump has expanded this party. Good candidates expand their party demographically, geographically. Florida, Iowa, Ohio, these are states President Obama won twice with well over 50% of the vote. We didn't even talk about them as swing states anymore. He's going to get 1 million extra votes in Florida potentially tonight. So I have to push back a little bit about, is it this effective Republican? Every time there's a Republican of name out there that goes and supports Kamala Harris, Liz Cheney and John Kelly, and this, everybody just has to cover, the mainstream has to cover it. They're missing the big story, which is the millions, maybe tens of millions of could we have been Democrats voting for Donald Trump. They're rank and file people. They don't have big names. They're not going to go on MSNBC and crow about and go campaign with Kamala Harris. They're showing up today, and they're showing up early. And the fact that he's converted this into the party of the worker, and he has told Americans not everybody has to be stuck into a 4-year college degree, that the welders, the steel workers in Pennsylvania, the coal miners, they've got a seat at the table. They can work again. It's a big deal. Yeah. And she's not doing that. She's not winning black men votes. Barack Obama did not help her bridge this gap, at least in Georgia so far. We'll see in Michigan.
Jessica, we will see that because that blue wall will really tell us something. But it is changing. The party's changing, and there's a lot of Reagan Democrats in this coalition. One of the things to note right now at this hour, we have not called the state of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Right.
It is a lot closer than people thought it would be. The Trump campaign did a stop in Virginia. They thought it was close.
Wow.
We're not calling it yet.
No, not yet. And we'll see when that happens. My expectation is still that Kamala Harris will win it, but I understand that President Trump ran an unorthodox campaign in terms of where he went and certainly the things that he was saying.
It'd be huge if he can get Virginia right here. Be huge.
That's great for him, a feather in his cap. Ron DeSantis has done incredible work to make Florida a place that a lot of my own liberal friends are happy to be living. That is an inefficient vote when you are trying to become president.
He is up by 1 point in Virginia. He is now winning in North Carolina. So that's big for him.
Spending time in New Mexico, which he lost twice. And I think that if Kamala Harris is victorious tonight, there should be some examination of why those campaign stops happened and if his time would have been better spent parked in North Carolina, in Georgia, in Arizona, and one of the blue wall states that he has to pick up, Pennsylvania for sure.
They're only 39% in Virginia.
That inefficient vote it's a real issue, and we have to see whether or not it actually pans out.
So
and one of the reasons he went to New York and New Mexico and were these house races. I mean, there are house races in all of those places. So And she did the same thing. And vice versa.
Hold on. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back with the panel, and we're going to dig into a lot of these numbers. Major poll closings coming up. We'll get our first look at Arizona. Remember Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin? This is Fox News Democracy.
New York! New York!
He wins New York.
The next president of the United States is.
My kingdom does not belong to this world.
Can I
Repay to
put
Caesar
on the
what
stage
belongs
for
to
a sec?
Caesar,
Or not?
and to God what belongs to God.
Jesus, we trust in you.
Dude, Virginia. If he's winning Virginia right now, okay, it's only 0.3 now, but that'd be wild if it's this close in Virginia. Like, how is she gonna perform in Pennsylvania and stuff? Be interesting.
Sold for less than $34, and this Nintendo Switch sold for less than $20.
I got this KitchenAid stand mixer for only $56. I got this barbecue smoker for $26.
And shipping is always free.
Go to DealDash.com right now and see how much you
Um,
can save.
It'd be huge for him to win Virginia because then he doesn't need Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. That's why how big this is for him being up still.
Back and let's get a live look, she said, at Pennsylvania, where Alexandria Hoff is in Newtown tonight. Hi, Alexandria.
Hi, good to be with you. You know, in theory, polls have closed, but that is not the case everywhere. You have Cambria County, for example, a judge there ordered that the poll hours must be extended to 10 p.m. That's due to a machine issue earlier in the day. And then in Luzerne County, there's one polling location that's staying open until 9:30. That's in Laughlin for similar issues. The DNC also made a legal push to try to keep polls open in Northampton County later. That actually ended up being denied by a judge. That was due to there being very long lines of Lehigh University students there and polling issues as well. So yeah, in theory, polls have closed, but once again, if you were in line, even by that deadline, you were still able to cast a ballot, guys. I'll send it back to you.
Hey, thanks. Let's check in with Bill Hunter. Listen, bounce around. We've got Virginia, you've got Texas, you got a number of things happening. Ohio.
Yeah, let's get to it, okay? So this is Georgia. I just want to set this up for a moment here. She's performing slightly better than Biden in Douglas County. These are the metro counties of Georgia. Slightly better in Cobb County. I still see a little bit a sticky move here in Fulton County, okay? And maybe that becomes significant because of how many people live there. The problem here is that you've got DeKalb County, nothing reported because the polls were suspended in that threat. So this is the first number I've seen from Gwinnett, all right? 16% in. She got about 60% of the votes, so a lot of the vote still remains out there. Let's move away from Georgia as requested. This is kind of interesting, guys. I mean, a lot of you folks live in the Washington, D.C. area. And right now, this is, with 40% of the vote in Virginia, the Commonwealth here, Donald Trump's got an edge here, okay? That's 8,000 raw votes. That's 0.4 percentage points. Here's the catch, however. A lot of this map's starting to fill in. This right here across from Washington, D.C., is Fairfax County, all right? Fairfax County is number one out of 133 counties in Virginia based on population. At the moment, you still have at least half of the vote still outstanding. And you see, Kamala Harris was 67%. You would expect that in Fairfax. I'm just making the argument there's a lot of votes still out there that may determine whether or not the margin statewide hangs where it is right now, and whether or not it changes. Okay, so watch that. You mentioned Texas. Let's jump on down there, and I'll tell you what's going on in Texas. All right, too soon to call. Half the vote is in. Half the estimated vote is in at 51%. Trump's got a lead right now, percentage-wise, 5 points. Okay, so that's kind of what a lot of the pollsters had in Texas thus far this year. I'm going to come back to Georgia in a moment. Let me just see what's happening in Pennsylvania. Because this is critical too. I said a ton of vote out there, by the way. I mean, there's no conclusions at the Keystone State. You're at 11%. I would keep an eye on Pittsburgh. I'd keep an eye on Philadelphia. In fact, if we can, do we have a moment here? Why don't we go ahead and do the vote? Let's go ahead and do that, right? Let's do the vote margin for Pennsylvania, and let's see what's happening here. What we've done for you is we've tried to set up the state in a way where the more prominent counties are more extended than the others. So you see Philadelphia in the east and Pittsburgh and Allegheny County in the west.
And the darker the blue, the more Democratic the vote is. The darker the red, the more Republican the vote is. If you see shades of blue, that means the margin in that county is 10% or less. If you see a shade of red, like a rosé, it's happy hour somewhere. If you see a shade of rosé, that's 10% or less too. So those are counties that we want to watch. Let's look at the vote margin now for Georgia. This is interesting, right? So we just went over there on the board and we showed you the metro counties throughout Atlanta. Let's find out where the outstanding vote for Georgia is at the moment. So what we want to do here, the deeper the purple, the more outstanding votes. So you can go to the more populated counties, perhaps like DeKalb County. You can look at DeKalb on the map, 0% in the upper right-hand corner. Can't know anything of DeKalb. What about Fulton? Fulton. You see, Fulton, 70% of that vote is now in. So that's certainly one to watch. What about Gwinnett? All right, still at 16%. Kevin, go ahead and arm up and look at Cobb County, just to the northwest of Atlanta there. This is Newt Gingrich's old district, heavily Republican for decades. And around 2016, it flipped toward the Democrats. And right now, a little more than 50% of the vote in. So, Kevin, come on back down here a moment. One county I haven't checked in on, when you look at the African-American turnout, look at Chatham. Chatham is where Savannah is, down there along the coast. You only have 5% of the vote reported. Chatham was one of these counties in 2020 that took forever to get the vote in. I don't know if that's going to be the same way again this year, but we're waiting to see about African-American turnout, as we suggested a moment ago, about African-American men supporting Donald Trump. Let's go ahead and look at the vote margin rather for Georgia. The vote margin for Georgia right now, let's go statewide. So we move away from Chatham. We go statewide in Georgia. So Chatham's still at 5%, and for
Take a
statewide,
really
we're at
weird look
44%.
here.
So
You can
a lot of
see
vote out
that
for Pete's
he
sake. Go ahead and clear this, and we'll get back to this in a
he's
moment.
winning the state.
In
Wow,
Georgia and elsewhere. So
could be
I
interesting.
think that's really interesting about what's coming in. I think that these states, as these numbers come in, Democrats have high hopes about someplace like Texas, about something like Ohio, where they look at the Ann-Seltzer poll from Des Moines and say, is this indicative of the Midwest? But we're not seeing that in our Fox News voter analysis match. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so come on over here. I haven't checked Ohio yet. It's a good state here to examine because Trump won it twice by 8 points. Let's measure his strength right now in 2020. You're about halfway in, okay? Kamala Harris doing better on the margins here, okay? 3.5 points statewide, so some vote out there. But Trump has proven to be pretty strong here in Ohio the last 2 times around. We'll see whether or not he can hold. Big Senate race in Ohio as well. Bernie Moreno against Sherrod Brown. We'll track that throughout the night as well. Basically in Ohio, you've got Cincinnati and Hamilton County. You got Columbus and Franklin County. You got Cleveland and Cuyahoga. Those are your 3 main population centers. They have been blue for some time. I would not expect them to be even a shade of rosé. Okay, let's go to my hometown. That's Hamilton County. Strong performance here. About 2/3 of the vote going to Kamala Harris. This is one of these places, that's the cities where the progressives and the Democratic movement has gotten me pretty strong, especially in local government as well in that city. This is Franklin County. You got Ohio State University there, so you got a strong student vote as well. Greater than 2/3 going to Kamala Harris right now. In 2020, the final vote in Franklin County, which is Columbus, you had 65% of the vote for Joe Biden.
Trump has a
So little bit of
72%
vote
chance
still
to
out
win.
there, but she is overperforming Biden's number from 4 years ago. And this, I'll just finish up here, guys.
Why are your
Cuyahoga,
dirty
check
pajamas
this.
on? Go
Heavily
put clean
Democratic,
pajamas
3-1
on.
Democratic votes in
You
Cleveland,
wore them
Ohio,
while you were
Cuyahoga.
not
Just about a
feeling
third of the vote right now is in, and Kamala Harris 71%, and Biden was at 66. So that'd be a good number for Kamala Harris if indeed that holds
Still
up.
way
I
too
think that
early.
kind of tells us a little bit about why this number
No,
is
they're
closer
just
than it's
showing
been the last 2 times.
what
Wanna talk to
happened
your
last
co-author?
time.
Well, one of the things I
Oh,
think is
did you
pretty
brush your
interesting
teeth?
is especially
All
when
right,
you're
you can
looking
get in the bed and do your
or
reading
considering the
for an hour.
political realignment that we're living in and also the population changes, right? So post-COVID, people leaving the North and the Midwest and going South. That's one of the things that, as somebody from Colorado will say, all these people moved in from California
and Colorado was reliably red. When I was a kid, it is now reliably blue. And so you get South Park making fun of California all the time and being very frustrated that they moved there. That's not happening in the South. So if people are leaving the Northeast and moving to Florida, they're not all of a sudden bringing a bunch of Democratic politics with them. So there might be a little bit of a change here to watch in the numbers there. The other thing I wanted to say is that one of the things I think we're seeing, especially with some of these lower propensity voters or whatever we're calling them, unlikely voters, is that the policy of the Biden-Harris administration pushed them.
He's maintaining a good lead in
The situation is dire.
the
And they want a better life.
popular
So they went
vote.
to the rallies and they went to the podcasts and they had fun and they got involved. What will be interesting to see is Kellyanne might be able to correct me, but as I understand it,
He's doing really
if you
good.
don't vote often, or if you're a first-time voter, whichever party you vote for the first time, you're likely to vote for that party the second time, and then you might have that voter for life. So the political realignment that is happening and the coalitions that Harris and Trump are putting together could have longer legs.
Well, it goes to what Kellyanne was saying earlier about the working element of the Republican Party shifting. And I think that when you look at Ohio, you are seeing a concentration likely coming from the suburbs, which is leaning more to Harris.
There's something else I see very quickly, and I see it in Virginia. Remember, this is the first presidential election since Glenn Youngkin was elected, overturning Ohio on the issues of wokeness and education and just really post-COVID policies, these school board elections. I think we're having a parents' rights renaissance in this country that continues. And I think two pillars that we don't cover enough in all the issues, the themes here, are wokeness and weakness. In our Fox News voter analysis, Trump is seen as the strong leader by more than 10 points over Kamala Harris, strength over weakness. But it's also fairness over wokeness. People feel like life is increasingly unfair. They don't want men and women's sports. They don't want to think their kids are stuck in schools based on their zip code. They don't want the pipe fitters and plumbers to pay for student loans of doctors and lawyers. And they don't want 10 million people to come here, including in all these states we're seeing, and get cash and cell phones and clothing and hotel rooms. They just say it's unfair. But wokeness is on the ballot, whether we feel it or not. I'll never understand how Kamala Harris chose someone in Tim Walz who was to the left of her on the woke
He just
agenda.
increased his lead in Virginia.
So you look at, we talk about early surprises. Jesse and I love sports, so do you, Brett. When you can get a quick touchdown in a game against somebody you're not supposed to beat. If he wins Virginia, this is a big thing. This is one of those early things that could go your way. Similarly, her numbers in Ohio are interesting to me. I did not think, you talked about the Seltzer poll, and Jessica and I talked about this before we got on. That number suggests, that's what she was suggesting, it could close there. We'll see as the night goes on. But Georgia, North Carolina, still the states that she's got to perform well in, maybe win one. And if he can win Virginia, we thought we were going to have a long night. We might have a longer night as we think about these numbers here over the next.
It'll be interesting. It might be a shorter night.
Or shorter.
Yeah, and it's Virginia. So we really have to look at the gender breakdown in these states and where we are at half the vote in someplace like Ohio and Texas, where that vote's coming from. We're going to get that.
Yeah. In minutes away, Brett. That is what we're dealing with. We're going to get some major poll closings that are coming up. Arizona, Michigan, and Wisconsin, all about to close. And Sean Hannity will enter our chat as our special coverage continues.
What do you think, Daddy?
Everyone's getting that new Simply Safe outdoor monitor. How do we compete with AI-powered outdoor cameras and live agent monitoring?
Stop. This is Simply Safe.
He's doing really good in early voting in Michigan.
There's no safe like Simply Safe.
I joined the Army in 2004. Later part of my military
I thought it was
service, I
gonna be
operated as a
the size for Virginia. That's
team
really
leader
insane.
within special operations.
We speculated that he could take Virginia.
With the mission of defeating
You said that
ISIS.
it was more
We
likely
were
that he
doing
flipped
team
Minnesota.
combat patrol where we were
Told
at
you
one
that
of the
he had a
schools
chance.
where girls had returned to school.
He's
They were getting ready to return
probably
home.
he could win.
I suspect they were losing control, losing their grip on the
He's
people,
increased his lead in
that they
Georgia. No, never mind. He's winning by.
Richard, put this on your charger.
Squeezed
3-1.
his
That's
way
it.
into my
You
team.
did it.
Okay, so Georgia's getting increasingly close. He's only up by 5 points. He's increased his lead in North Carolina though. In Virginia, still has a lead.
Oh, sorry, Bert. I'm sorry.
Texas, he has a good lead in. He probably could call that soon.
Yeah.
Ohio, he's leading by
I think he just needs some water. Go get yourself some water.
Who's better than a boy? Yeah.
Shut up.
I was very emotional. I wanted to see Josh and his family coming to their new home because they really spend so many.
I can't stand this table. You got to do something with this. No, because I'd like to lay down or something and relax.
Yeah, I'll just do it right here. Yay! I'm live streaming right now with 0 viewers.
Like the whole time?
That we're here arguing with you?
Yep.
Like,
but nobody's watching.
Like when you're talking.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching. All 0 view were the best viewers a man could help for. Trump 2024. Oh, shoot. Somebody came in right before I said that. I'm not biased, I promise. Jill Stein for president.
Somebody viewed it before?
Yeah.
You got one viewer.
Jill Stein on top. Goodbye.